Buhari approves enhanced police salary structure. Nigeria's taxpayer population hits 33 million. In international news, General Motors plans to halt production at 5 factories in North America, 14,000 jobs on the line. And in sport, Falcons Cameroon battle for Alcan final sport.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. President Muhammadu Buhari has assured that his administration would continue to give attention to the welfare and operational needs of the Nigeria Police Force with a view to restoring its lost privacy in the internal security framework of the country. The president was speaking in Abuja during an audience with members of the Nigeria Police Service Commission and the leadership of the Nigeria Police Force. They were on a thank-you visit following Buhari's approval of an adjustment to the bank salary structure, which would increase salary, allowances and pension of policemen. President Buhari also regretted that the inability of the police in their constitutional role as the frontline force in the prevention of crime had led to military involvement in the maintenance of law and order throughout the country. He observed that the more efficient the police, the more confident the government and citizens would be. Kudos, it's a good step in the right direction. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has disclosed that the presidency was closely working with the National Assembly for the quick passage of the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill. The Vice President said no discussion about the future of oil and gas could be divorced from the Petroleum Industry Bill, which represents the most ambitious and comprehensive reform of the oil and gas industry in Nigeria in decades. Osinbajo noted that President Buhari's recent decision to return the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill to the National Assembly for slight amendments had been met with varied reactions. Another meeting between the federal government and Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, ended on Monday night without an agreement. The meeting was to ensure the Ministry of Education was to find a lasting solution to the ongoing university lecturer strike. Speaking with the journalists after Monday's meeting, ASU National President Biodun Ogunyemi said negotiation was ongoing and the meeting would continue at a later date. The union leader said there were 2 basic conditions that could make ASU suspend the ongoing strike. One was the implementation of the 2017 agreement between both parties, and the other, the disbandment of the federal government's negotiation committee headed by senior lawyer Wale Babalaki. The union embarked on the strike 3 weeks ago over poor funding of Nigerian universities and the government's non-implementation of previous agreements. The Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees has accused President Muhammadu Buhari and his administration of ignoring petitions by concerned Nigerians that demanded the Joint Account Allocation Committee be probed. National Union of Local Government Employees National President Ibrahim Khalil and other speakers made the allegations at an event to mark the 40th anniversary of NOLJE, Southwestern State Chapter in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. Khalil said the union is at the forefront of constitutional reforms to make local government functional and to deliver on the mandate setting it up as a third tier of government. The National Assembly is amending the Constitution and has passed the baton to the state houses of assembly, but only 12 states have decried on the bill as of this morning. Of the 12 states, only 9 have adopted the resolution of the National Assembly for local government autonomy. The remaining 3 rejected it. The country's taxpayer roll is set to hit 33 million. This was revealed by Tide Fowler, Chairman, Joint Tax Board and Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service at the 142nd meeting of the Joint Tax Board in Bauchi. Fowler said the ongoing database consolidation of the JTB, an initiative being executed in collaboration with the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System, a national taxpayer database of more than 33 million individual taxpayers across the country, is now a reality. He stated that having this consolidated database, which is clean and credible, opens the door to immense opportunities for the tax administrator at all levels. A court in Milan is considering charges of corruption against ENI and Shell over the purchase in 2011 of Nigeria's oil prospecting license 245 that led to Nigeria losing an estimated $6 billion. The British Broadcasting Corporation reported on Monday that a global anti-corruption and accountability watchdog group, Global Witness, has calculated that the OPL 245 deal approved or deprived Nigeria of doubling its annual education and healthcare budget. The group has spent years investigating the deal, which gave ENI and Shell the right to explore OPL 245, an offshore oil field in the Niger Delta. It has commissioned new analysis of the way the contract was altered in favor of the energy companies and concluded Nigeria loses over the lifetime of the project could amount to $5.86 billion compared to terms in place before 2011. The analysis was carried out by Resources for Development Consulting on behalf of Global Witness, as well as 3 non-governmental organizations. The estimated losses were calculated using an oil benchmark price of $70 a barrel. ENI and Shell were accused of knowing the money they paid to Nigeria would be used for bribes. The Italian and Anglo-Dutch energy giants denied any wrongdoing. Dana Air flights were disrupted on Monday as a result of the ongoing renewal process for the airline certification by the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. Some Abuja-bound passengers from Lagos who were originally meant to fly to their destination on a Dana flight on Monday had to be airlifted by a Max Air aircraft. NCAA spokesperson Jimoh Mohammed said Dana was concluding the renewal process of its certification and so could not fly until the exercise was completed. Coming up, African stories, and later, General Motors plans to halt production at 5 factories in North America, 14,000 jobs on the line. And in sports, okay.
You are watching a
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby.
We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward.
Wait, stop.
You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down. Keep walking to the left. Yes.
You're almost here.
Keep going.
You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
There is a new all-news network on the scene in Nigeria to give news from a purely news perspective and to promote free information flow across Africa. African News Network, ANN, fresh views, unbiased, bold, with a purely African view. Watch ANN News on MITV. ANN, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. A quick look at events making news around Africa. Death toll from the boat accident on Lake Victoria in Uganda has now risen to 33. Authorities say the figure is likely to go up. More than 100 persons are estimated to have been on the sunken ferry on Saturday. Many are not sure what had happened to their loved ones. They're hoping their relatives had survived. Police say many people on board the vessel are still unaccounted for, so the search and rescue operation continues. Police blame the accident on the boat's poor mechanical condition and the negligence of those on board not to have worn life jackets.
We decided today to concentrate at the scene where the accident happened, in front where you see those canoes, because we suspect, based on the witnesses, that many of them could be trapped in the wreckage.
More than 200 persons died in September when an overloaded ferry sank on the Tanzanian side of the lake. Local authorities are now coming up with tougher measures for ferry owners. The operation of the restoration of family ties carried out by the International Committee of the Red Cross in the Democratic Republic of the Congo is helping the reunion of separated families. In Kananga, capital of the Kasai Central Province, staff members of the ICRC regularly hold meetings to exchange information from different regions and sort out the registered information cards of separated families. Many juveniles who used to be separated from their families have benefited from the operation. They have gradually returned to normal life. With help from the ICRC and the United Nations Children's Fund, many children have now been set free and have been returned home. Members of the Egyptian cabinet have joined victims' families of Al-Rawda mosque attack in North Sinai to commemorate the first anniversary of the terrorist attack that killed more than 300 persons. In a sign of solidarity with the victims' families, government officials marked the anniversary in the same mosque with a rare ministerial visit to North Sinai. Of all the horrific attacks Egypt had seen since 2014, the one on Al-Rawda Mosque remains the deadliest, with more than 300 persons killed, including 27 children. 120 persons were left wounded when militants attacked worshippers during a Friday prayer in November last year. After the attack, Cairo launched the biggest counter-terrorism military operation in its history in a bid to rid the Sinai Peninsula of Islamic terrorists. China is expanding its investment in Africa with a planned establishment of a car manufacturing company in Tunisia. Local authorities have welcomed this Chinese move and its SAIC motors that would produce at least 6,000 direct and indirect jobs. China is investing $100 million in the project that will make Tunisia an industrial and trading pole in the automobile industry in North Africa. Tunisian Minister of Industry, Slim Feriani, says the plant will produce 100,000 units annually and would be entirely dedicated for exports to African and European markets. This project is a direct result of partnership agreements signed in Beijing in September between the Chinese car manufacturer and Tunisia's Linux Holding during the third forum on China-Africa cooperation. The African Union has recently condemned the adoption of children by any parties during military conflict. It also said children should not be made victims of the misgivings of either party. The AU insists children must be protected during times of conflict. This is an issue that still plagues the continent. African Child Policy Forum says member countries have not lived up to their responsibilities as demanded by the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, to which member states signed up in 1987. AU and UN have expressed concern that the trend of conflict in Africa today is internal as opposed to decades ago when it took place across borders. They say this internal conflicts are hard to resolve, but the AU says it is using different conflict resolution mechanisms to assist countries to end wars and unrest. This, the AU says, it may achieve by 2020. Now back to Morocco. Artists from all over Africa gathered together last week in Dakhla, Morocco to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the International Festival of African Fashion, a noted biennial fashion show in Africa. The 4-day landmark event on the continent's artistic life is considered a platform for young and aspiring designers and models. 35 designers from different African countries showcased their creative ideas in front of a huge audience. Hadia Sino, a stylist from Lebanon, said she was very impressed by the event.
Because what I was seeing around me, all the super ethnic, very traditional clothes, but when I was watching and discovering the new talents, I was really happy to see that the new generation, they are not stuck in their tradition.
The fashion show was divided into 3 categories: fashion designers, accessory designers, and models. Prizes were handed out for the best in each category. For participants, it was more than just a competition, it was also a display of talent.
All designers introduced their collection, very nice collection, and I think that in Africa we have a talent. You can do beautiful things with your talent.
When we return, international news. General Motors plans to halt production at 5 factories in North America, 14,000 jobs on the line. And later sports, Falcons Cameroon battle for Alcan final sport.
You are watching ANN.
MTN gives 2,000% bonus for reactivating your MTN SIM. That's right. If you haven't used your MTN SIM for 45 days or more, recharge now and get 2,000% bonus. That's right, 2,000% bonus for your first recharge of every month.
Shining our eyes on breaking news, whether in the east or in the west, with Al-Shabaab in Somalia and Boko Haram in Nigeria, with turbulence in the north and agitation in the south. Wherever you live in Nigeria, wherever news happens in Africa, we've got it covered. ANN News, connecting Africans in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. On the global scene, giant American automaker General Motors has announced plans to stop production at 5 factories in North America and cut more than 14,000 jobs. It also plans to close 3 plants outside North America by the end of next year. GM says the moves are necessary in light of rising costs and slower car sales. The company will now focus on its lineup of trucks, electric and self-driving vehicles. This does not sit well with some American politicians, especially President Donald Trump, who had always claimed that the resurgence of American auto industry was spawned by his economic policies. General Motors says it has no choice because North American auto buyers have turned away from smaller cars. They now buy bigger vehicles such as SUVs and trucks. Those automobiles make up nearly 70% of total U.S. car purchases. GM employs close to 200,000 workers. The continuous conflicts in Yemen have inflicted heavy losses on the fishing industry in the country's western port city of Hodeidah. As the second largest port in Yemen, Hodeidah has remained the country's top fishing port. Its aquatic products used to meet not just domestic demands, it's also supplied others. But today, Hodeidah tells a different story. The local fishing market has been bombed several times by rocket shells from unverified launchers, causing dozens of casualties. The once booming market is no longer as it used to be. Yemen's fishery department data show Hodeidah's yearly catch of fish was 46,000 tons in 2014 before the escalation of conflict, but the figure dropped to 7,400 tons last year. It is expected to dwindle even further this year. Yemeni government forces and Houthi rebels have reached an informal ceasefire in Hodeidah, but there are still sounds of bombings and explosions. A British expert has said that a Brexit deal secured by Prime Minister Theresa May is weak, vague, and potentially unenforceable. David Collins, a professor of international economic law at City University of London, made the remark during a television program on the same day European Union leaders endorsed the deal. The Brexit plan still faces major hurdles as it has yet to be passed by the UK Parliament, where a number of MPs have already voiced their opposition. Collins echoed some of the MPs' criticisms, calling the deal weak and vague.
We don't know whether it would be the free trade agreement that we want. It looks more like it would keep us in the customs union. And then you have the issues, obviously, about the amount of money that's being handed over, the $39 billion. What are we getting really in exchange for that? And there's clauses in this massive withdrawal agreement that suggest that the UK may be on the hook for the EU's debts. Although the issue of Northern Ireland is dealt with under May's plan, Collins believes there is much uncertainty surrounding it. When asked if giving Northern Ireland more money would help solve the issue, Collins replied that it's unlikely. fabric of the United Kingdom, and the deal as it's envisioned would ultimately, it would have to carve off Northern Ireland. There doesn't seem to be a solution out of it. This is what the EU seems to want. I don't think any amount of money, any realistic amount of money, would address those concerns.
Turkey's foreign minister has described as disgusting a recording that allegedly documents the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi at the Saudi Arabian consulate in Istanbul in October. Mevlut Cavusoglu told a German newspaper on Tuesday that he listened to the recording. He said the journalist was killed within 7 minutes and that it was deliberate. He said he could hear the forensic doctor instructing others to listen to music while he cuts up the body. Turkey has insisted Khashoggi was killed by a 15-member assassination squad sent from Riyadh. The country has been consistent in its charge that orders for the killing were given from the highest levels of the Saudi government, but not King Salman. Up next, sports. Falcons Cameroon battle for AFCON final sports. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit snap photo send or get it photo send. Now because you the use Palasa, your phone no dey answer. See me see wahala. My brother, go get smartphone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no go for your hand, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no fit take selfie. Drop that Palasa phone. No be correct phone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone.
Upgrade to a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store, anywhere in Nigeria, or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it not for your hand, that's Palasa phone.
Shining our eyes on breaking news, whether in the east or in the west, with Al-Shabaab in Somalia and Boko Haram in Nigeria, with turbulence in the north and agitation in the south. Wherever you live in Nigeria, wherever news happens in Africa, we've got it covered. ANN News, connecting Africans in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News and Sports. The Super Falcons will engage Cameroon in a crucial 2018 African Women's Cup of Nations semi-final match at the Accra Sports Stadium on Tuesday. The Nigerians finished second in Group B with 6 points, while the indomitable Lionesses finished top of Group A to book their place in the semi-final. A win for either side seals a place in the France 2019 Women's World Cup. 8-time champions Falcons started the competition with a loss to South Africa, but a 4-0 win over Zambia in Cape Coast put the Falcons back in contention. The 6-0 defeat of Equatorial Guinea sent the Nigerians into the semi-final stage. Real Madrid coach Santiago Solari defended captain Sergio Ramos on Monday after claims he gave an irregular doping sample after the Champions League final win over Juventus last year. German magazine wrote that Ramos failed to declare he had taken dexamethasone, a banned anti-inflammatory, ahead of the final at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, and will Real beat Juventus 4-1. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit our website, cnnafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at CNN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.